out.
There you go.
Oh, it says an error occurred. Wait a moment, but hey, we're going live. It says live on this side. We're live on Facebook? Are we live on YouTube? I don't know. I'm just going to start talking right now. It's Aslan. It's Michael Langston. It's the Michael Langston recruiting call-in show because Michael Langston's here and y'all are going to call in. I need to probably forgot to edit the number and put it on my screen, but the number as usual, 850-792-5730. We'll be taking your calls, and by we, I mean really Michael. I'm just going to answer it. Y'all can talk. Michael's got all the inside knowledge. So, hey, man, May ended on a pretty high note. We talked on Friday. A couple commitments rolled through. Jackson West. Jackson West was on Monday. Josh Burrell, and then my other guy who I'm blanking on right now, Michael. But everything's going smoothly. Led to Monday with Jackson West and Jarian Jackson. Not Jarian Jackson. I can't even talk. Jarian, who's the guy?
Jarian Jones.
I'm going to stop talking. How are things going?
Yeah, and linebacker Jordan Eubanks from Texas. They also got him. That's another one. So they've had a busy transfer market, and then they've also had a busy, commitment, buzz lately. They've been kind of getting some flow going as far as the commits. So almost, I think, double digits now. So I think already up to 25 now. So they're moving up, and there's still several guys that could pop.
How about this? Can I start off with a rumor, Michael? We don't like to talk about rumors, but can I talk about a rumor real quick?
Sure.
What's going on, my boy Will Putnam? Is there any legs to that, or is that not true?
No, that's not true. I talked to somebody that's very tied in at Clemson, and also somebody that's talked directly to the family of Will Putnam, and they told me, that's not true. That's not accurate. And I kind of was skeptical about it just because he's slated to be a starter for Clemson this year. So that would kind of not make a lot of sense. Obviously, with all this stuff going on with Clemson, with the coaches, racial slurs, that might have stirred some stuff up. But from what I've got from my Clemson guys and people close to the family, that isn't true.
Hey, we got a phone call, Michael. It's from Virginia, it looks like.
Okay.
Spoil it. Who do we got on the line?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Michael. It's Gator Kirk. How you doing?
Hey, right on cue.
Seriously, like you're like Joe DiMaggio with his 56-game hit streak, man. You're like the first caller, like in the last 10 shows in a row, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great. I live for this. Got to get my question in.
All right, man.
There you go.
Ask Michael. We both, honestly, everything. By the way, everybody, this should all work out as intended, where Michael and I can both talk to you guys at the same time, and you can hear both of us and all that good stuff. So without further ado, Kirk, or Gator, or rather G, I'm not going to call you Gator. G. On your mind.
All right. I guess they're kind of related. Michael keeps saying that with over 1,000 recruits that have already committed for 2021, do you think any of the ones that have committed to FSU are going to flip? And what impact does Alabama offering Luke Altmeyer the other day have on his recruitment?
Well, Kirk, I appreciate the call, and thanks for calling. First, I think we're probably around 700 as far as the commitments, so it's not quite 1,000 yet. So I don't envision anybody, as far as that I'm seeing, that there's a certain offer that they're waiting on that I can see that would flip, even though there's, I guess if I had to pick one, you say Jordan Eubanks because he's blowing up. He's from the state of Texas. Who knows what could happen if, some teams jump in there and try to make it interesting with Jordan, but he's so solid. He's so connected with this staff. He's known them for a while. So that's another one where relationships are a big deal. As far as Luke Altmeyer, kind of addressed this a little bit on the board. Yes, Alabama is an offer that was extended, and also he was very honored to get that offer. But at the same time, like I've said on the board, I would be more concerned if there wasn't such a deep tie and relationship with Luke, and the fact that FSU was the first major school to really offer and push, and there's such a long history there. It goes back 2-3 years. So yeah, it's something I'll monitor, and I think he may visit there, but ultimately I would be surprised, very surprised actually, if he dipped on him and just left them in in the cold. But it's definitely something that you have to monitor. You can't be naive and thinking, oh, well, he could visit and stuff like that. But I think the relationships go really deep on this one. And usually most 9 out of 10 times that they have the really strong ties of a relationship, especially at quarterback with Norvell, he doesn't lose too many of those. And I don't envision them losing that one, although it's something that, you got to be slightly concerned because it's Alabama. I mean, Alabama's a top school, but at the same time, Alabama's not just recruiting Luke. They're recruiting several guys like Jalen Milroe. I think there's a few others. There's 2 or 3 guys. So I think there's several guys involved that they could get before they get to Luke, even though Alabama says, oh, it's a 100% committable offer. I think that relationship goes deep, and the connection he has with Tallahassee and FSU, I think, goes deep. So I don't think FSU's that extremely concerned yet at this point. I think FSU feels pretty good. Even with that offer, I think they feel good.
What a world we live in, huh? Alabama comes after your quarterback. You're like, yeah, we're good. We're fine. Don't worry about Alabama.
No, I'd say that. But I just think when you have relationships, Aslan, especially those deep, it's the difference between just building a relationship for a couple months and a relationship that's for 2 or 3 years. That's a really hard thing to break, especially with what Norvell does as far as the culture he's trying to create there. I think it's something you have to monitor and just to check, see, how he feels if he does visit Alabama after that. But I have a feeling he's going to be visiting FSU before that or right after that, even if he does take an Alabama visit. So I think FSU's on top of that. They're pushing hard. And two, if some strange thing happened where, Alabama was able to really just do something that's unforeseeable and change his mind or whatnot and pull the trigger. I mean, to me, this offer signifies the evaluation ability of what Norvell can do. The fact that Alabama's coming after your quarterback that you evaluated so early. So I think it's a pro as far as a great, almost like a check mark that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. But right now I'm not overly concerned, even though it's Alabama. I would be pretty concerned if there wasn't such a 2-year, 3-year relationship. So that's kind of my stance on that.
All right,
I appreciate it. Go Noles.
Right on.
Y'all have a great night.
You too, man. Thanks, Kirk.
Thanks, Kurt.
Gee,
All right. Bye.
I'll get better at this, I promise. Can't play Gator, man. It's not going to be able to do it. Sorry. Look at this. So I asked you about Will Putnam because somebody on YouTube asked you about Will Putnam, Joseph Arnold. But before he asked the question, he said, first question, what bad idea for an outfit has Aslan picked out today? And then I use this question. So, Joseph, that's not nice, man. Fool me once. Lots of folks on YouTube asking about transfers, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
James Bat09. I haven't heard of Ezra. Or is it Ezra Miller? But what about Jared Williams? Do we have anything new on that big time? I mean, literally, 6'7" offensive tackle out of Houston, H-Town?
Yeah, that's kind of the one that I'm waiting on, that I'm monitoring hard. I don't think there's anything new yet. I don't think Baylor, Miami, or FSU, I think, who are the main teams there, I don't think any of those teams know yet. So I think we're still in the dark. And as I said, with transfers, a lot of times you are in the dark until maybe a night before or day before, then it starts leaking out of different places that, especially if it's FSU, I start hearing a lot more from my contacts of FSU or even those other schools, because I'm pretty dialed into with relationships to those other schools, and I consistently check in, but there's nothing new yet on Jared or when he might decide it. I would think it'd be in the next few weeks, and I would think it'd be soon, but that's just my gut feeling. But so far, I have not heard one way or the other which way this thing could be pulling. As I said last week, and I kind of say with that, Baylor has the most connections to this kid, and connections and relationships are a big part of how these transfers work out. Sometimes you're fortunate where you can build a relationship in a short time and be able to pull it off because of your position of need, and maybe it's a position that they feel these kids can come in here and play right away. Obviously, that would be the case with Jared, because he's certainly he would certainly be a welcome addition to Norvell. I think they would be screaming at the rooftops if they pull that kid. But right now, it's just I'm waiting to hear more about which way he's leaning, because right now he's keeping it pretty much close to the best. But and then Ezra, the Ezra kid he's talking about from Iowa, I know they're talking. There's activity there. There's talk with the staff. I know the staff is highly interested. I have not heard if the exact name of schools or favorites he would have as far as right now, as far as teams. But I do know FSU is very active with him as far as talking. I know he's planning on doing a virtual tour with FSU. So there's a lot of interest, I think, from both sides. But how serious he is about FSU yet, I haven't heard. I just heard that the conversations are quite active with FSU. Now, I got what I'm doing either tonight or tomorrow. I'm trying to find out, who the teams are, as far as he's going to be down to, because he kind of just jumped in the portal, later than most guys. So there's probably a process of teams and figuring out which teams he's seriously interested in. I think he's kind of betting that. So I'm going to try to find that out in the next day or so, or this week, what teams are in a factor, and also from FSU context, just how serious a player do they feel they are.
Hey, look at this. We got somebody actually giving us intel instead of asking for intel, Mike. Apparently, Robert Lassiter says, I'm the cousin of Xavion Sorey out of Graceville, Florida. I know a lot of people have him going to Alabama or Georgia, but be careful, because FSU is very much in the mix with him. He talks to Norvell all the time. So,
yeah. And, that's not a surprise. Thank you, Robert, for that little nugget there, I guess you could say. But we appreciate that. Obviously, any drop by. I mean, I'm not totally stunned to hear that kind of message, just because FSU is the closest in location to Sorey. I mean, when you look at, he's over there in Graceville, which is, if people don't know where Graceville is, that's near Marianna, which my grandmother lived there, so I know how far it is. It's about 30, 45 minutes. And so it's not that far away from FSU, obviously not that far from Florida, but closer to FSU. Certainly has visited FSU several times. I think the key with Xavier is going to be, what they do on the field as far as product. He really likes Coach Marv. I mean, they've connected in a big way. He likes what Coach Fuller's going to do with his linebackers. He's very excited to see what this defense is going to show. I think a lot of recruits think what they're going to see is, aggressive defense and much different. So I think a lot of recruits are antsy, like Amari Harvey, Terrion Arnold, Xavion Sorey, these are all local or within local range, that they want to see what this defense can do. And I think if they have a solid product, you don't have to be a massive turnaround, but just a solid product where this is a fun defense to play in. This is a defense I want to be a part of. I think that's going to drastically move them up the charts as far as where things stand with Sorey. I think Sorey just wants to see the product, because I think he's very comfortable with the coaching staff. He's very comfortable with Norvell. He likes Chris Marv, as I said, a lot, and then he talks really often with Norvell, and he talks with Fuller a lot. So I think there is a connection there. I think they're quietly sitting in there, but they understand the product is a big deal. And so I think that's the thing I'm kind of focused on with Sorey and a lot of guys. But I think, I'd say Alabama and Georgia, and then after that, FSU and Florida. So I think they certainly are in the picture.
We got a phone call, Michael. Let's take it.
Bring it in.
Welcome on into the Michael Langston Recruiting Calling Show, part of WarChant.com. Who we got on the line?
Hi, this is Kat.
Kat, it's G's girlfriend, Michael. It's 2 weeks in a row I think we got her on the show.
There you go. What's going on, Kat?
Hey, not a whole lot. So we're just kind of wondering who the next recruit you believe will commit will be.
Oh. Throwing it right in there. Yeah, that's a tough one because there's not too many guys that have set like kind of a timeline. I'm going to say a gut feeling, and this kid has not really hinted that he could decide to. I think Michael Trigg's a guy to watch tight end. You just got Jackson West. So that means there's only really a few spots left. Maybe they take 3 tight ends. I said that's not impossible. So that's certainly something to watch. Raheem Sanders over there in Melbourne is going to announce, I think, in like next Monday. So he's a guy I'm trying to figure out where FSU, the priority list, he sits on FSU's priority list. I think if he's an FSU priority, he's a guy to watch as well. So those are 2 guys. And then the other guy is offensive lineman Brian Estes. I think that's a guy that is hinted about taking more visits, but as we've seen with this pandemic, it kind of speeds up the process of guys getting in a place that they're really comfortable with already. I think FSU's that place for Bryson, and I think he could jump on board. So those are 3 guys that just come to mind that I'm kind of watching.
Okay.
Got anything else, Kat?
Nope, that's it for now.
How are you and G doing? You guys still doing good, you 2 crazy kids? You going out to dinner or anything fun like that tonight?
And Virginia's still we're still kind of closed down, so.
I gotcha. All right, well, soon enough you can enjoy Zaxby's hopefully. Thanks for the call, Kat. Tell G we said hello.
All right. Have a good one.
You
Bye.
Yeah, I keep forgetting, man. It feels like ever since Florida opened up, I just feel like we're all opened up. But
yeah, it's different in each place. So you know, I had to go to the DMV today because I had my birthday is on June 17th, so my tag's gonna expire before then, so I had to do that today. And man, that place was like a swamp. There's just people everywhere. So people continue to be safe out there. It feels like I felt like there's a football game or something because there was so many people out and about. But we want to encourage people to continue to be safe. I know there's a lot going on in the country, but just we want you to be around. We want you to be here to watch the season. We want everyone to be excited about it, but I also want you to be safe and be careful.
Hey, let's hop on over to WarChant.com's premium recruiting board where it is Michael's kingdom, his dominion. All the questions that are on the PRB will be answered by Michael either on this show or he'll even go back and write and type out every single response to all the questions that are on the board right now. So without further ado, MFA 1169, can FSU get back into the recruitment of Rayshon Benny? His film looks good at left tackle. I believe he was being recruited last year by Harlan Barnett because he's from the state of Michigan. His future cast says 23% Iowa. Atkins and Norvell should give him a call.
Yeah, he's not a name that he's a name I've heard around the FSU circles, but he's not a name that I consider just his name has just been popped up past along in passing, and it's not something that's, I think, serious. I think there's considerable work to do there for FSU. Obviously, he hasn't visited. So you're going to take some time as far as getting in there. I have not heard he's a guy that they would heavily push for. He's not currently going to be in my hot board as far as on the defensive tackle position, but I've heard their board is very extensive. So I think there's certainly a possibility later. I can't say for sure that FSU would be. I could say for sure right now I have not heard that FSU is heavily involved, but he is a name that I have just people have passed along to me that are in the FSU circles, but nothing that I consider serious enough where I throw him in the hot board yet. But I'll check on that, and just for next week, we'll definitely I'll be able to give you a report about that. You don't even have to ask the question. I'll go ahead and answer it next week on board because I'll check on that over the week and in the weekend to see if there's any activity or push there where they're active with him consistently.
All right, let's stay on the PRB. This comes from Josh71. Michael saying, did Farmer miss out on getting a 4th star? I thought that was expected after the new Rivals 100 and 250s were updated recently.
I don't know if it was expected. To my knowledge, I don't have the profile in front of me as I can pull that up pretty quickly, but I did not hear. I don't think he got a 4-star. I think he's a high 3-star. I think he did very well in the camp scene. I think that Rivals analysts were impressed with what they saw, but I think a lot of people also want to see what he does in this game film and what he looks like this year. I think he's going to be going into the season. I think he'll be kind of one of those high 3-stars that if he shows it on the field or what he showed in the camp scene, there's a good chance he he could hit that low 4-star mark. And I think eventually, I've said this before, that I think he will be a 4-star. I think when you look at his skill set and the just how he projects and just the high end skill set that he has as a big guy that's got great lateral quickness, great move inside, and certainly is strong enough to handle even the big offensive tackles. I think he's a guy that's going to balloon up, but people want to see what he does in kind of a season format, because a lot of people just have that camp scene. There's some junior film, but I think a lot of people want to see what he does on the field if it matches what they've seen as far as the camp.
Flash his number on the screen. Sorry.
Yeah.
Try to pull up some of the film on him. But who does East Gadsden play the Tallahassee teams on their schedule come fall?
Yeah, sometimes they play some of the local teams, like Godby and Leon, and I don't think they play Lincoln. They might play them in a kickoff classic or something like that, if we even have one of those. But they do play some local teams. They don't play teams like Madison, the best of the best. They don't always play those teams. I think sometimes they play Florida High, so that would be kind of a good test for him as far as to see it. But I think the main thing is just with him is just, does he match what we see? Does he match? Is he making an impact every single play? Are there plays that he's kind of a lull there where he's not delivering? I think that's what I want to see, and I think that's certainly what Riles wants to see with senior film. So that's the thing. If he does what I saw in the camp, I think there's a good chance he's going to hit that status. But I think guys like Joshua Farmer, who just came out of nowhere, that a lot of people didn't know about until all these offers started happening in FSU commit. I think once that happened, then people were kind of aware and watched his film and watched his huddle. But I think a lot of people, as far as a valuation standpoint, want to see game action of what he does in a game situation and not just go off the junior film.
Hey, let's go back, stay with the PRB. FSU 007. He's been around since August 1st, 2008. That's awesome. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Update us on the recruitment of Terrence Ferguson from Georgia. He seems to interact a lot with Coach Atkins.
Yeah, he does interact with him. Terrence likes Coach Atkins a lot. I mean, that's one of his favorite coaches. He's not hidden that fact. Even when Chad Simmons did a check-in recruiting updates for Skype and did an interview, and he really highlighted Norvell and Atkins, and he really likes Coach Dillingham a lot, which is not really a surprise. A lot of recruits all like him. I think you got the wrong Terrence Ferguson on the profile there, but
Terrence Ferguson that we're talking about, is it?
No, that's not the Terrence Ferguson we're talking about. It's offensive tackle from Georgia. So I think Georgia's still the team to watch for him. He's been to Georgia like 20 times. He's been to FSU like once. I think there's a connection there, and they do have a shot when you have relationships. As we get the right Terrence Ferguson on the screen there for you guys, I just think there's going to have.
Michael, come on, man.
I've done that too when I've looked him up, so you're not alone, Aslan. But I think he's a guy that you need to do follow-up visits. The good news with him is I don't think he's deciding until December. So that's a good thing where he can see the product on the field. He can also go to FSU 2 more times, maybe even see a game. That would be a big deal. But right now, I would say just the preliminary of seeing Georgia so much. I think Georgia would be my team to watch for him as far as you look at him. But FSU is extremely active with him and pushing hard and certainly are up there for him. But I think Georgia would be if I was making a forecast, which I think I already have for Ferguson, it would be Georgia at this point.
We've got a couple questions involving this one recruit. Let's hop back to YouTube real quick. Michael Beham Legend says, what's up with Corey Collier? How many more DBs will we take?
Yeah, it's interesting because you have Hunter Washington. You have obviously Kevin Knowles is another one. You have trying to think if I'm missing somebody. So you have those two guys. I think both of those guys could end up being safeties. Corner-wise, think you have a set pure corner yet. I don't think Collier is in that category as far as a pure corner. I think right now the chances of Collier, and I think this will really shift his recruitment, is when he gets to Tallahassee and taking a visit. He keeps saying that he's going to visit FSU, but he hasn't visited there. I think he's visited Florida a few times. I think Clemson was the early favorite. Georgia, LSU, I think is in there, Alabama or some of the teams. But is he a take for all those teams? I mean, that's kind of crazy to say for a guy that's number one in his position and 5-star. But, his thoughts kind of slipped a little bit when you consider Clemson wasn't ready to take him. So, at least in Clemson's eyes. But I think the whole thing with FSU is going to be, I think if he visits FSU, and that's what I'm watching, that recruitment immediately shifts big time, because obviously we know his dad played there. He's a legacy recruit. And I hear he's very high on FSU. I keep hearing people around his circles and in his camp tell me that he's very high on FSU. But until that visit happens, I'm not really locked in or focused on him. But he's certainly a guy FSU is pushing hard for. They like him a lot. He would be a take for FSU. They want him. It's just they need to see the interest be mutual as far as getting him on campus. And I think that's the whole key, is getting him on campus, because I think if he's on campus, the FSU's immediately going to jump right up there with Florida. It wouldn't surprise me if you see some people start talking about FSU as the possible team that could pull that off. Because I think that's how big that visit is. So I think everything depends on him visiting, and I hear that's going to happen, but I've been hearing that before in the spring, so I want to see it. I think once that happens, if I was FSU fans, I'd get a little giddy and excited, because that means they're definitely in the picture and certainly will be one of his top favorites once he gets on campus. It's only going to take one visit, because he's been here thousands of times, I'm sure, with his dad playing here. So I think that's going to be the big deal and big thing to watch is a visit.
All right, let's go back to the PRB. Let's jump back there. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not already a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Org. Cooper Philp Pot 01, speaking of visiting campuses, things of that nature. What do you think about defensive tackle Lee Hunter? Could he flip to FSU? He's currently committed to Auburn. The reason why I say that is because I saw that he is still in contact and wants to visit.
Yes, he visited multiple times, I think in the spring, I want to say, and he actually surprised me as far as I was surprised. Maybe the staff wasn't surprised, but he visited. He was one of the FSU was the most recent visit he took right before that pandemic hit, and I think that kind of came out of the blue as far as him visiting. I think he's very high on FSU. I also think he's also comfortable with Auburn because that's the school he grew up watching. He liked them, but at the same time, I think he's definitely a guy that's looking around and looking to see if there's something better. I think he connects really well with Odell Higgins. I think he really likes his defense, and I think he understands what FSU's losing with Durden and Wilson leaving. There's going to be an opportunity to play right away, and I think that's a big deal to Lee. And so I think that's what keeps him in there. He's very high, like I said, high on Odell. He likes the feeling he gets at FSU as far as off the field more than just football. I think there's a connection there that he keeps coming back to. You don't keep visiting like he is if you don't like the culture and what's going on there. I think FSU is a big factor there. I think there's going to be several teams, Georgia, Alabama, mainly Alabama, I would say, in-state wise right now. But I think certainly FSU is going to be a major factor. And the fact that he visited FSU, out of all those teams he could have went to see right before the end of the pandemic, he went to FSU. He didn't go to Alabama, didn't go to Auburn. He went to see FSU. So I think FSU is very much in the picture and very high. I'd say FSU is probably the biggest competition to Auburn, if I had to say that right now as far as his recruitment. So I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Now, some people think, he's also recruiting for Auburn. Was my response to that? Well, he should be if he's committed to him. So that would be kind of silly if he didn't recruit for him. But I still think while he's comfortable at Auburn, I think he's definitely looking around to see if there's something that is a better place that he connects with. And the fact that he's visited FSU, especially that late in the spring, I think that tells you a lot about his interest.
How about another one from the PRB? XDQ004, not to be confused with 007. Been around since January of 2014. Only their 6th ever post. Look at that, Michael. Post was in this mailbag a few weeks ago. Who are the top running backs that we are looking at this cycle, and how many do you think we will take?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, I think they'll take like between 1 to 3. We just put up our hot board a little while ago. Obviously, Christian Leary is very high on their list. That's a guy that I hear is serious about FSU. I think the Gators had the momentum there because I think he, as a team, he followed, growing up, and not his favorite school. His favorite school from right here is LSU, but they aren't really in the picture. But I think Florida has the momentum there. I think the 2 top teams are Alabama and Florida. But I also think he is very serious about FSU. He really likes Norvell. I think he really likes what FSU does in the track program. Then out west, there's a guy by the name of Byron Cardwell out of San Diego, California. He's got really good bond with Dillingham already. I've heard he really likes David Johnson as well. That's a guy that he talks to very frequently. FSU is a school that he's definitely going to visit. I don't think there's really a set leader there, so that's good news for FSU. He's not in a hurry. USC, Washington, LSU, Texas A&M are some of the teams that are certainly in the mix there. Now, a guy that I've always mentioned is running back Jalen White out of Dothan. He's a guy I think FSU holds the edge for, even though Tennessee, Florida and Michigan, other teams I think are in the Michigan State are in the mix. I think FSU's the team I think stands out. He really another guy that's connected with Dillingham, and also he really likes this offense. And FSU likes how versatile he is he's just as explosive in the passing game as he is running game. So he's a guy I like a lot. And then the last guy would be Kawan Powell out there in Vernon, Florida. He's a guy that's you could probably consider that local, but he's a guy that I think FSU also. It's FSU and LSU. There is FSU LSU battle. So I think that one's gonna take a while because I think he really wants to take visits. But if I had to guess right now, I'd say FSU has more of the momentum because he's visited FSU, and I think FSU probably stands out a little bit more. But that's one where it's gonna be a long process where he has to take visits and check out places, and he doesn't seem like he's in a hurry. From what I hear, based on people I talk to, that he's ready to just end it early. I think that's going to take a while.
We got some questions on YouTube that we've already kind of hit on. Redbeard asking about Luke Altmeyer maybe exploring his options with Bama because Florida State might have someone bigger in the works. I don't know. That sounds a little far-fetched, right, Michael? Luke Altmeyer.
I don't think I'd be surprised if that's true. I mean, they're so high on Luke. They're really, really high on Luke Altmeyer. And as I said before, and I said this several times in the chat, Jake Garcia would be a guy. USC just got another quarterback commitment. So that's a guy that I feel like FSU feels they could go in there and pull that one. They feel like have a great relationship with Jake, and that's a guy that they could go in there, have a major impact for. But I just don't get the sense that they're really pushing for another quarterback because they're so sold on Luke, and I don't feel like it's a necessity like it is other positions. So I'd be very surprised if they have somebody higher in mind. They really targeted this guy from the start in Luke. So I think I'd be very surprised on that. But you monitor that stuff, and then if I hear something, obviously I'll chime on the message boards about other quarterbacks. And that's the other thing that would get you concerned about Luke is if you start seeing them push for other quarterbacks, then that lets you know that at the very least they're a little bit concerned and they want to make sure they have backup plans and plans to be ready. Now they're probably talking with other quarterbacks, but there's a difference between talking and actually solidly pushing to add another guy. So, but right now I don't get that sense. I think they're pretty set on Luke.
How about this from Fort Myers Brock? Pretty interesting avatar he has. Any interest in Jalen Gill or Justin Shavers?
I think Jalen Gill, isn't that the kid that's a transfer? I could be wrong. Aslan can look that up. Justin Shavers, I have not heard that name as far as around the FSU circles, as far as on my end, but I will certainly check on that name. And I think Gill committed to somebody. I think he's the transfer that committed. I think he's out of Ohio State and he committed. I want to say BC, Boston College, but I think he's the guy that committed there. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Aslan can pull up his.
Brock, what are you doing? Fort Myers Brock asking like 3-week-old news. Yeah, you're right, Michael.
Okay.
Gill from Ohio State transferred to Boston College on the 19th of May.
Gotcha.
Hello.
Yeah, Justin Shavers, I don't know. That's a new one for me. I'll have to check on that name. That's a new name for me. Yeah, like I said, I tell people, like, I'm not trying to downplay it, but transfers is not like my wheelhouse. So that takes a little more checking because some of these guys I haven't dealt with, and I have to hit in my FSU contacts to see if there's solid interest there. So, but I will check on that name in Justin Shavers for you.
Yeah, I can't find anything on the internet either, man. There's a Justin Shaver, singular, that plays basketball in Ontario, but I don't know if that's who old Brock had in mind. Let's see what awaits us on the next one. No blooded. Any news on Jared Williams?
We already covered that. We're still waiting. And then I chimed on Jake Garcia a few minutes ago with the Luke Altmeyer. I think that's a guy that if they do go after a guy, it'd probably be Jake Garcia if I had to guess.
There we go. Question about Luke Altmeyer. Talked about that. All right, there we go. Let's go to FSU's biggest fan. It says it right there. With Jackson West not having an evaluation yet on most recruiting services, what would you rate him going into his senior year? Also, let's go with the first part. Let's start with Jackson West.
Okay.
What would you rate him, Michael?
I would rate him, I think Chad Simmons came on our site and gave a really good breakdown. Even one of our posters, Horace, who's one of our best posters, he does a great job on evaluations. And they both had similar thoughts as far as Jackson being a high 3-star. I think he's got incredible hands, very good hands when you watch him. And this kid has the want to be physical, and that certainly jumps out to you. His blocking, I think I like his blocking. I like the way he attacks everything. So I was very impressed with that. And then Barie Jackson, I would say right now that would be my feeling that FSU is in the best spot there. I would give FSU the lead there. So if he was deciding today, yeah, I think it'd be FSU, but we don't know when he's deciding, and we're still waiting to see what a timeline is. He's certainly, he retweets everything, FSU, even stuff from War Chant all the time, and certainly a guy that the coaches or the staff sends edits to nonstop. So they're pushing hard. I don't think anybody's recruiting him harder than FSU. Alabama's also in the picture. I think UF, Miami. I think there's other schools. Oklahoma's also in there, but I think FSU, is sitting in the best spot with Mr. Jackson there.
Man, like, you're the recruiting guy. I've only seen the tape of him, 3.5 minutes of it. I don't really I think it's pretty hard to evaluate tight ends, I feel like. How many 5-star tight ends really have there been in the history of the Rivals era? I don't even know. Even like 4 stars. That kid's good, though. I know stars. That kid's good. I try to find the right word to describe him because, like, I hate using the word dynamic. It feels so kind of like overused.
Yeah.
He's a big dude, but he's athletic. He's smooth. He's enticing, man. I think that's a real good thing.
Yeah, it's a solid pickup, and I've said that many times. Solid addition. They did their homework. They evaluated this kid deep when they're in Memphis. They tracked this kid. They offered him. He's a 3-sport kid too. He plays baseball as well. I don't know the other sport. His mom was chatting with me today and showing me things with baseball that he did, and he's very athletic. And the thing that I love is just the blocking and his hands. The kid snatches everything. That's one of the pivotal things that I look for in a tight end. What they do in the receiving areas isn't so much the separation as those hands, because if you can catch it in traffic and anything, you can certainly make an impact. And I think he's a guy that could help them early on as far as blocking or receiving. So I like it. I think it's a solid pickup.
Hey, man, a couple people have chimed in here. Soybeans had a theory that Justin Shavers is actually Tyrell Shavers, the receiver from Alabama.
Okay. Well, that makes it easier when you get the name right. So, I mean, that's kind of.
Named Derek Adams says that Justin Shavers is in the portal. He's a transfer from Alabama. He's a receiver from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrell Shavers. Here's my thing, Michael. I know everybody should want to emulate Alabama. Alabama's really good. But why do fans always think that the portal is all like the grass is always greener in the portal? Florida State, I know they need some help at wide receiver. You only got 12, 13 games left out of Tamori and Terry most likely. But Keyshawn Helton's a guy that I like. Ontario Wilson's a guy that I think will be pretty darn solid. We'll see how Thompson kind of emerges. Jordan Young's another guy that seems like he probably has a lot of athletic talent that hasn't been put on display for folks yet. I know DJ Matthews has got one season left as well, but if he's not working out at Alabama, the change of scenery in Tallahassee is going to ball out or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, usually when kids leave Alabama, it's usually because they're not playing, and playing time. And I've said this many a times, fans get so wrapped up in what a guy did at another school. It's like, the Diary King thing, with quarterback going to Miami. He had a really good year at Houston. I think the down year the next year after that. But just because he put those numbers up at Houston doesn't mean he's automatically going to just blow off the roof and be a Heisman candidate at Miami. I think he's going to be solid, but I think fans put too much of an expectation on what kids did at previous stops. Because when you go to a new stop, you have to adjust to what the personnel is there at that place. See, if your offensive line isn't sharp, as a quarterback, that's going to be a challenge. I mean, Miami, certainly had issues on the offensive line as well. So that's the kind of stuff. I'm not trying to jump on Miami. I'm just saying I don't think fans consider in all the personnel that is around them on other teams when you talk about transfers. Now, what I like about the FSU transfers are, one, you have a running back, Jayshon Corbin, who started at Texas A&M. So there's a good chance he's going to be productive in this offense. Not necessarily think he's just going to tear the roof off, but he's certainly a guy that's shown that he already can do it. He's a good fit. He's going to be surrounded by other guys. I think the other guys too is just their fits are really good. It's like Fabian Lovett, defensive tackle. Well, you're coming in to work with guys like Marvin Wilson and Corey Durden. That's a great opportunity for Fabian to kind of get some reps, get some depth in there, but also learn from two really good defensive linemen. So I think the main thing with transfers you have to understand is they're starting new at different places. It doesn't equal just because you got them doesn't mean everything's just going to blow up and it's going to be fantastic, because every stop is a new one. Just because they were good at another place doesn't mean they're going to just tear it up at your school. So I think people have to first understand that. Second one, the guy, Tyrell Shavers or Justin Shavers or whatever his name is, hopefully next week we'll figure out what exactly is that. I have an idea who they're talking about, but I have not heard FSU active there yet. Now, I could see them going after another receiver if there's room, but guys, the bottom line is their focus is offensive tackle. Like, that's what they really need as far as from the transfer. I don't think they're in bad a shape as people think they are a receiver. I get that, the guy says, tell Norvell Nation we want Justin Shavers so Miami doesn't grab him, but you can't worry about what other teams are going to grab. You got to worry about what your team needs. And if you feel good about your unit and your receiver unit, you just can't go out there and just to take guys to block other teams from getting pickup. You need to get a guy that's going to help you. That's why I like what the recruiting class they're doing from last year and even this year. They're getting guys that fit what they're going to do. They fit in everything: culture, character, position, mindset. They know what they're coming into, and that's what I like. And I've said this a few times. You're not going to get 4 and 5 stars this first year. This is a grinded year where you're getting guys that are going to help you. And then when you show on the product, you got to go out there, show a good product. Then you'll start getting the 4 and 5 stars. But that stuff, that's how Clemson built their program up. When you look back when, Jimbo beat the living crap out of them in 2013, up there at Clemson. They realized they had to get guys that are going to fit their program. Then they're going to start getting the 4 and 5 stars. And FSU is in the kind of same situation where you got to go out there and get the ones that are going to help you. And then you don't just jump all of a sudden going from 2 bad years and then a year where Jimbo basically decided he wanted to go to Texas A&M. You don't just go from that to just elite. You have to build it back up, and these guys have to get players that they know can contribute and help them right now. Then you'll get your elite guys, but you don't just start landing 5 stars. So I think it's going to be a key as far as Shavers of, is this a guy that they feel that would immediately help them? And if he is, then maybe he's a guy to look into. But I don't think the receiver position is as bad as people think when you consider all the guys that they already have currently coming in on the roster, and certainly guys that can help them.
By the way, I just want to disagree with the comment on the screen right now from Ansel Ford. If Mike wants to keep his job, Mike Norvell, that is. You better not lose back-to-back years to Miami. I will forgive you if you lose back-to-back years to Florida. Not Miami. No, that's no. You don't lose back-to-back years to Florida either, man. That's the worst one. They're the worst. Let's go back.
Yeah, Florida is always going to be the worst, but in my opinion, I think you got a solid shot of winning that one against Miami. But that's just my gut feeling. I'm not saying I'm predicting they're going to win, but I think there's a good shot.
All right. How about this from BEDEJ1, who's been around since 2011?
Okay.
Floating Island. What up? In your opinion, has the boat sailed on Keyshawn Spencer? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it has, just because I have not heard a lot of buzz with FSU pushing for him. Now, are they staying in contact? Are they still talking to him? Yeah, I think they're talking to him a little bit, but I just don't think he's a priority just compared to the other guys. I forecast him a while back to Jeff Scott in South Florida. I think that's a really good fit for him, and certainly will be a fantastic addition for Jeff Scott, who I have a lot of respect for, and our families go way back. But I think that's a good fit for Keyshawn. I just don't think he's as high as those guys I just covered, the 4 running backs I listed. I think he's behind all those guys. I'm not going to say the communication's dead, but yeah, I would kind of move on that. I don't think that he will be a guy they heavily pursue, at least right now.
All right. Striker Matt, by the way, William T.H. Boggs thinks Florida State goes 11-1. National championship. Here we come, everybody. Striker Matt asks Michael, I believe Rocket Sanders is fitting soon. Is he a take for us?
Yeah, he's talking about Raheem Sanders. He's out of Melbourne. I want to say it might be Rockledge. He's over there in or Jay Sean Corbin's neck of the woods. I don't know. That's the thing I put in my hot board, not to give too much away, but that's the thing I don't know. I know FSU, South Carolina, Arkansas are the teams that I hear the most with that. There is some buzz about Arkansas, but that's my thing that's holding me back from making a forecast, which I hope in the next day or so I'm going to do, because he's committing, I think, on next Monday. So I think that's what I've been checking on with Sanders is he a guy that they're heavily pursuing? Is he a guy they're pushing really hard for? I think if FSU's pushing hard, if I hear that, then don't be surprised if there's a forecast, because that will explain why, and I think people will know why I put a forecast in. It's like that's what I'm waiting to hear is, does FSU look at him like a priority? Because he's faster than Joshua Burrell, but their size is kind of similar when you look at it. 6'2", he's 6'2", 211 pounds. Burrell's 6'2", 195. Obviously, Sanders is faster. That's a big part of his game as far as his speed. Is very good, and Burrell's more of a different kind of player as far as what he does. But he's not known for his being a speed merchant. But that's what I'm going to check. I'm checking on this week is he a priority to FSU? Because right now I haven't got answer to that. Usually that's a sign that he's probably going elsewhere, but FSU is obviously dealing with a lot of recruits, so I think that's something I should know in the next day or so as far as FSU, where I'll make a forecast where you'll see. If you see FSU on there, that's kind of a tip, guys, that FSU's pushing hard. So that kind of tells you. So I'll put a forecast in and you'll know. But right now, if I had to guess, I would go Arkansas, but I don't know. I'm kind of waiting to hear back on that.
We got a phone call. Let's take that. Welcome on into the Michael Langston call-in recruiting show for WordChant.com. Who we got on the line?
Hey, this is Spence in Tallahassee. How are y'all doing?
Doing well, Spence. How about yourself?
Doing good. Two just quick things. First of all, to kind of add to the Tyrell Justin Shavers kid saying junior coming out of Bama. So at best, we'd get 2 years out of him. I don't really think that we're in the mood to get in a veteran wide receiver that we can plug in. I think we're really aiming for a lot more of those younger guys like Raheem Sanders and stuff. That's just my take on it. And the second thing is Cameron Graves. Have we heard anything about him? Because a week ago, he made a tweet regarding he's ready to decide on his new home. I was wondering if we've heard anything on his front.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything new. I think FSU is still the favorite. I haven't heard anything that changed my mind on that. He's very close with Woodson, Marcus Woodson. I haven't heard anything of other teams feeling good about him, and I still would keep my forecast there. I know there was some rumors that they're not talking as much on the boards, but that's just usual message board stuff, and I haven't heard anything to show any validity to that. I think FSU still wants him. He's a cornerback. They don't have a pure cornerback yet on their commit list, so I think he would be pretty high on there. He's going to be on my hot board. I haven't heard anything different there. I do agree with you, everything you said on the Shavers kid. I think you get, say 2 or 3, recruits in there this year, and then you add that in with what you already have. I think that's a good position because, like I said, receivers not like a massive need for what they need as far as in the transfer portal. I mean, personally, if it was up to me, I'd take 3 offensive tackles if you could take them and you could fit them in. That's what they need. Maybe a speed rusher. If you're looking at positions that they could help them in the transfer market, those would be the 2 positions I got circled. I think every other position FSU's nailed 100% pretty well, but those are the 2 positions I look at, and I kind of agree with you on Shavers. But that's what I have on Graves. I haven't heard any change there as far as to make me think that I would readjust my forecast, but I still think FSU right there.
Gotcha. I was really interested in him because he goes to the same high school as Lee Hunter, so I was really interested in, thinking of him as a help to kind of work on the flip side of things, but you never know how that'll work out. So
that's always that's a good point. That's a plus too. If you can get him on there, it helps consistently get Lee more on campus, and it certainly increases your chances to maybe entice Lee, that he has somebody that he knows personally as far as a player that he's comfortable with. Certainly doesn't hurt your chances, but that's part of it. But I think this staff has done a really good job. Everyone talks about package deals, but this staff does a really good job of taking guys that they look at like, this dude can help us. And that's not a disrespect to other players that they pass on. As we've already seen, they've passed on some guys, but they have to be sold on everything they see before they jump all in. I think Grays, so far, everything I've gotten is they're sold on that and they push hard for it. So we'll see if that changes.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too, Spencer. Thank you. Man, it took me forever, Michael. I kept searching everything. I'm like Cameron Gray, Cameron with a C, Cameron with a K, just Gray. Come up, and then I heard you guys say Grays, plural. Boom. Pop them up. There he is, everybody, for you to see. All right, Michael, let's hop on back to the PRB, the Premium Recruiting Board on WarChant.com. If you're not a member, use the promo code WarChant30 for 30 for days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports stores. This question comes from there. It comes from WarChant1911, and he pretty much asks, Michael, what are the odds that Norvell and the rest of the staff can lock down Tallahassee and kick Bammer out of our backyard?
Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. As far as Bama kicking Bama totally out of the yard, but I think when you win and you show the product on the field, FSU is consistently going to keep those local kids home. I think Amari Harvey is one that I feel good about. I think Terry and Arnold is going to be a battle. You're battling, Alabama. I think Tennessee is very much in the mix there. Georgia could push there for Terry and Arnold. I think Terrian's going to take a longer process. I do think Amari Harvey, that's a guy that they likely pull in this class. Obviously, they've already got Joshua Farmer. That's one that's in there. I wouldn't close the book on Deshaun Rucker either. He's committed to Tennessee. He's from Tallahassee Godby, my alma mater, by the way. And so I think he's a guy that they could certainly reassert and get in there and possibly get him to change his mind and go to FSU. So I think there's several guys, but in order to change, as the guy said, keep Alabama out of your yard, you have to show a better product on the field. You have to give these kids a reason to go to Florida State. You can't just say keep them out of the yard because we're recruiting harder. You have to show the product to give them a reason. I think if you give these local kids a reason, Florida State's going to win most of those battles.
All right, as we reach the top of the hour here, let's wind things down. It's the last question that we'll take, Michael. Everybody that posted on the premium recruiting board on WarChant.com, Michael will hop over there and follow up and answer. And if he already answered, he's going to go back and put the replies in there too, because he's Michael Langston, and that's what he does. Lincoln TC, Michael asks, can you touch on defensive end Deonte Anderson from Meade? I love his film, but I'm not sure if the staff is interested. Also, the offensive tackle from Bradenton Manatee, I see has an offer from UGA. What's the deal on him?
Well, first I'd have to look and see who your offensive tackle you're talking about from Manatee, because there's a lot of offensive tackles, so that it's kind of need more of a name. That would help me. But Deonte Anderson is a guy that I know they're evaluating. I don't know if they're talking to him, but I know he's a guy they're evaluating. I think South Carolina is fairly involved. West Virginia is a team right here with him. I know some people out there, so that's the only reason I know. Those teams are in the mix. I know if FSU offers, that's a place that he would be highly interested in based on what the people from Fort Meade tell me. But nothing imminent as far as an offer or stuff like that. I just know he's a guy that they're taking a look and evaluating. Wish I could tell you more about the Bradenton Manatee offensive tackle. I'll see if I could research that and kind of figure out that name, and then maybe address that on the board when I answer the questions later tonight after dinner or whatnot. But I'll look into that. But that's kind of what I have on Anderson.
I typed in Georgia offensive tackle Bradenton Manatee.
Okay, might be the guy he's talking about, Charles Armstrong. I'll look into that. I'll ask around. I'll check to make sure there's not any other guys, but that sounds like the guy I would guess. But by the way, Yusef Shakur is the guy, the head coach out there, former coach at Lincoln. So really good friend of mine, and does a really good job. I think he's working hard out there at Bradenton Manatee. So I will check in to see if there's any movement or if FSU's interested in that young man. But that's kind of what I have on Deonte.
All right, Michael. So ultimately, the week started off really strong with 2 commits. What lies ahead for Florida State? You already talked about who's on commit watch. Kat asked that at the beginning of the show. But what do you think looks on the horizon for Florida State here in the next week or so, and what you got cooking on WarChant.com for?
Well, today we just released. We started releasing our hot board. We did quarterbacks and running backs. We covered some of those on the show today with the running backs, and then quarterback. I've already addressed that, so we pretty much covered what was on there. We released the hot board. Then next is going to be wide receivers, tight ends. Not sure if I will throw in offensive linemen. I think that's probably going to sit alone because there's so many offensive linemen that I'm going to cover in that hot board. But I'd say receivers and tight ends are going to be the next thing on the menu coming up. Maybe in the next few days, Ira will release that. So we'll slow. The reason I decided to do that is because it gets people to soak in each position, so you're not just throwing everything at once. We bring it along slowly so you can really study and break down kind of where things stand as far as FSU and these positions. So we have that coming up. Certainly with recruits, can't visit until, after July 31st. So probably August 1st is when the visits start. Obviously this week, War Chant reported and several other places that, they're doing, some workouts in small numbers and different workouts. So that's an encouraging sign to when things can get back on the practice field and maybe do some practice. So that'll be a big thing as far as, things coming up as far as, just practice and stuff. And then, my job will pick up. I think there's still going to be virtual visits. I think we'll see a lot more of those. I'm kind of going to see this week if I can find out if there's any guys that are going to plan on, deciding in June or July or even August. That's what I'm kind of going to work on this week to see if I can pinpoint any upcoming decisions of who could be pulling the trigger and, what guys to watch as far as FSU. But a lot's going to depend on, I think, what happens, if they do have August visits. There's going to be a massive flow of kids coming in. My life's going to be very chaotic, and so there's going to be a lot of updates and visits and follow-up visits. So that's kind of what I'm focused on. Obviously, this hot board, I want to give people kind of the latest of where we're at. Some of that information is time sensitive, so we'll see how that goes.
You got a call, but it's coming from a weird number.
Let's do it. Do it. Take it.
I don't know.
Take it.
Good call. I don't think we should do it.
Take it, man. Go for it.
Welcome into the Michael Langston calling and recruiting show on the line.
Hello.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Who is this?
Hey, how you doing? This is JJ calling from Clearwater, Florida.
JJ.
Yeah.
What's good, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man.
Got a question. One of my biggest things, I see we have a lot of private schools over here in the Clearwater area. I don't particularly see FSU looking at these guys, even though you got some good players out there. Do you see them only looking at private schools and basically only private schools in Miami? I mean, I don't really see them recruit too much. Private schools only, like I said, the local schools around here, the public schools. Do you see Norvell maybe shooting for private schools in the future?
I don't think it really matters private or public with this staff. I mean, if they're talented and they fit what they're looking for, they recruit Pinellas County pretty well. I mean, I think they recruit the Orlando area pretty well. I think it really doesn't depend on the private. I mean, Michael Trigg plays for Sefner Christian. That's not exactly what I consider a powerhouse. So I think the private schools, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think they're going to be very active in your area. If that guy's talented and he fits everything they're looking for, as far as his game and his character and everything they're looking for, I think he's that guy. They're going to go after him. It doesn't matter if they're at, 1A Christian school or private school. They're going to go after him and they're going to push hard for him. So definitely think if there's talent, they're going to find them.
Boom. Well said, Michael. Way to end it out, man. Taking an extra credit, taking an extra caller, pushing over the hour threshold.
Told you, man. Look at JJ. We wouldn't have got JJ on. I had to push Aslam to the finish line.
Michael's a man of the people. Don't forget, as always, stay connected to warchant.com for the very latest on all Florida State athletics. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. On behalf of the thousands, literally, of people that have watched the show tonight, Michael, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks, Michael. Let's do it again sometime.
You got it. Anytime.